BMW's B58 engine. It's been around for about 10 years now. Everyone on the internet will tell you that BMW's B58 is the modern 2JZ, it's the best engine they ever made, it's bulletproof. But we don't need to worry about this today. If you guys are thinking of buying a B58 in 2026, whether that be in an M140i, a 340i, or the Toyota Supra, I'm going to be showing you exactly what it's like to own one of these in 2026, everything that goes wrong underneath the bonnet, and one specific failure that led to me having to replace my entire B58 turbocharger. Because today I'm sharing with you guys the hidden costs behind this thing, the fuel consumption they didn't put in the brochure, and also all the parts that I've had to replace just to keep this thing alive. So I'm going to share with you guys exactly what went wrong with my turbo later on in the video. But first we need to talk about one crazy thing that might leave you stranded if you buy a B58, and it's BMW's obsession with plastic parts. So that we get a better understanding of exactly what I'm talking about, we're going to actually open up the bonnet. And what do we see inside here? Plastic, 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 plastic. Everything is plastic. Even my charge pipe was once plastic until I changed it to an aluminium one. Now this engine that BMW have designed, they designed it to run hot. It runs really hot for efficiency, but the main cooling components they decided to design with, they designed with plastic, which is just crazy. Now for this next part, I'm going to show you guys. Let's get it out of the car now. This is just one part of many I have had to replace on this engine. Now, some of you might be looking at this and you might be thinking, what on earth is that? Well, for one, let me put it simply, it should not be this colour. This should be black, like the rest of the plastic in the engine bay. Now, this little piece in my hand, it's one of the most crucial parts on this engine. This is a coolant outlet flange. All of your coolant for the engine runs through this flange, and BMW decided to make it out of plastic. Now, put simply, this flange should not look the way it does. You can see this discoloration here with the plastic, and if I actually got some grips on this, it would actually crumble in my hand. Now, the reason I changed this was for preventative maintenance. Now, before everybody thinks that I'm hating on the engine, I'm not. I'm just highlighting some real-world issues and components that I've had to replace myself on this engine. But the question is, why are these plastic parts such an issue? Well, the B58 engine, it's notorious to lose coolant. So for example, let's say you get a low coolant warning on the dash. You're in the car, you're driving normally, you get the low coolant warning on the dash, you stop, you top it up, a week later, the same warning comes back on. You're thinking, what on earth is happening? And I'm not just making this story up. This is a real world example that's actually happened to myself, and I had to fix it. Now, while I basically had the engine apart, I decided it was wise to change a few other components. So I replaced the electronic thermostat, which is also made out of plastic, and a load of other plastic components. So if you are thinking of picking one of these engines up and it's approaching the 70,000, 80,000 miles, just factor in that it would be wise to change these plastic components if they haven't been done already. So it's just something to bear in mind about replacing these parts. And that leads us on perfectly to the next thing this engine is really good at, and it's making power. Because chasing power on these cars, that's where it gets a little bit expensive, and that's also where I had my turbo disaster. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about fuel consumption. Now, a weekly reality is more than likely you coming to the back of the car here and filling up with some good old 99 octane fuel. Now, this is probably one of the most daily driving topics regarding this engine, and it is the fuel consumption. Everybody brags about how they get 40 miles per gallon driving this thing on the motorway. And yeah, that's true if you've got the wind behind you and you're going downhill. I filled this thing up yesterday, so let's hop in the car and actually see exactly how much range I have left. Currently, we have, I would say, 3/4 to almost a full tank. But there you can see we're getting about 319 miles. So on a full tank, which I filled up yesterday, the actual mileage this thing had was 350 miles, which in reality isn't that bad. But the main point is, if you're buying this 3-litre turbocharged straight six, you're not buying it because it's an economical car. But if you're driving this thing on a back road or you're taking it on track, which, little hint, I am taking this exact car on track in 2 weeks' time. So if you'd like to see that, now would be a brilliant time to subscribe. But in reality though, if you are tracking this car or driving it hard, it drinks fuel. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is mod tax. Now, you might be thinking, what on earth is mod tax? Well, it's a little term that I've just come up with to highlight modifying these cars. Because trust me, if you get a B58, I give it 1 week and you're going to be wanting to tune it. And this is literally how it works. You go from wanting a little stage 1 tune, which you're quite happy with, to then upgrading to a high flow downpipe. Then you go stage 2, then you're changing your fuel pump. Trust me, it's an easy trap to fall into. And then suddenly, your cheap daily, which is meant to have good economy, suddenly becomes very expensive and starts eating into your savings. And that brings us on to some of the bigger bills. I teased at the start revised injectors and my dead turbo. Now, I'm not talking about this next issue to scaremonger people. I'm not one for scaremongering, but the injectors that come standard with the earlier generation B58s, they sometimes stay open or they stay closed. Now, this can lead to a whole load of big issues. I'm not going to go into depth in too much today, but it can cost you an entire engine. And trust me, if you have to fit a new one of these to the car, that's going to be crazy expensive. Well, you might be thinking, what did I do? Well, while I was changing all of these plastic parts, I also fitted the revised injectors. Now, these revised ones, they have a revised part number and they're less likely to fall into this issue of staying open or staying closed and then destroying the engine. And this was even more crucial for myself because my car is tuned and also I track it, I drive it quite hard, so I wanted that peace of mind. So if you are planning to tune your B58 in 2026 and you are on an earlier generation of this engine, I would 100% recommend that you do fit the revised injectors. Right, so now the part where things get very expensive. The turbo failure on my M240i with this B58 engine. I have to own this one because it was driver error. So a tiny bit of backstory about how I knew my turbo was destroyed. This car never really made the power that I really thought it should, and the boost delivery was very strange. So I did a little bit of investigating. So what exactly went wrong? Well, I was running an aftermarket air intake on this car, and there are many theories about exactly what happened. But one day I was taking the air intake off to clean it, and I decided while I was so far taking things apart, I would just place my phone with the camera on down to the turbo inlet to check what the fins looked like. But as soon as I pulled my phone back up from the engine bay, I loaded up the picture and had a look on my phone, my heart dropped. Because what I saw is exactly what you guys are going to see on screen right now. And if you know anything about turbocharged cars, that is never what a cold side of the turbo should look like. Now you may notice we are running the stock airbox back on this car, and the reason being, this is all you need to make good power. Maybe an aftermarket inlet, which is the silicone one here, a performance panel filter inside the stock airbox, but this thing works. BMW designed this well, they designed it to work, they designed it to be reliable, and this stock airbox is all you need. But as soon as I saw those turbo fins, I knew I had to buy a new turbo, and that wasn't expensive. Now, I could have gone down the line of getting a hybrid one, going for some crazy power, but in all honesty, where I live in the UK, having a car that makes 800 horsepower, 700 horsepower would just be too unusable. So I opted to go for the original turbo back on and then a stage 2 tune on it. So some people might say the B58 is reliable and it is a strong engine, but it's not idiot proof. So is the B58 worth it in 2026? Yes, absolutely, when it works. Because truthfully, there isn't anything on the road that delivers the same power, the same dynamics of the chassis, the same feeling when you're driving it for the price that the B58 does. But some final thoughts on this. It's a high performance engine in a somewhat high performance car. You've got to expect the high fuel bills, the replacement parts for all those plastic issues, the revised injectors that you might have to do, turbos failing. These are all things you have to consider. So in conclusion, this engine is finally sorted. I have done pretty much everything I can to get this thing as reliable as possible. But the rest of the car, not so much. In 2 weeks' time, we're hitting a UK track day called Castle Combe. So the engine itself might be fully bulletproofed, ready for the track day. But the rest of the car, not so much. We've got a lot to do. We've got brake upgrades, suspension changes, all this stuff needs to be done. And if you want to see that, the video is dropping this Sunday. So hit subscribe down below so you don't miss it. And even if you don't miss the video, we've got future videos where I'm taking this thing on track, which you won't want to miss. However, what's the biggest bill the B58 has hit you with? Because so far, like I've mentioned, I've had to fit quite a few expensive parts to this car, but right now I'm loving it. So if you are thinking of buying a B58, whether that be in a 240, a 340, or even the Toyota Supra in 2026, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, you can consider hitting the like button down below. Apart from that, I hope this video helped to concrete some knowledge on if you are wanting to buy one of these this year, then I'd say do it. Now is the best time before these engines do get too old. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.